Shavua Tov. This might be my last Shavua Tov stream. It may not be. I'm going to be working on a lot of stuff. Once a socialist, always a socialist. But I got political because of a certain marginalization that I'm in. Lot of it having to do with lumpen proletarian struggle. But anyway, how many people know the difference between the monastic, secular, and civil? Now, when I say secular, I don't mean secularism. I mean the necessary mode of secular life. I'll tell you something about monastic. First of all, drop your assumption that religiosity, theism, and ritual are always tied up. While these things intertwine a lot, they're not the same things. They can be compartmentalized away from each other, and they should immediately. Because this is what the monastic encompasses. Sexual orientation. Yeah, that's a monastic matter. Religiosity is a monastic matter. Environmental ecosystems is also monastic. So if you're into reservation for wildlife, as well as the trees and the forests and the jungles, that is a monastic matter. If you want to see hunter-gatherer societies untouched by anybody, any sense of modernity, that's a monastic matter. The belief that we should make sure that hunter-gatherers are not touched by any developments that they don't want, that's a monastic matter, and it's essential. It's not something very understood by people who are secular obsessed. Secular mode includes things like entertainment, recreation, trivial landscaping, rehabilitation, fashion, and sports. Cool. I'm taking you're of the younger generation. Yeah, I can usually tell when I'm dealing with mostly Gen Z or possibly even Gen A. I should make it clear though that me, Jason, and we're the Red Pagan as well as Dark Snovia. I don't know if people noticed, but we kind of have a bond. Me and Jason are late stage Gen X, and then you got Dark Snovia and Red Pagan, who are both earlier stages of millennial. And we kind of hate the millennial generation. We kind of hate we hate the millennial generation, and we fucking hate the Gen Xers, which is what we actually are. Absolutely. Fuck yeah. That's why I like you. Gen X rules. Fuck the millennials. Fuck Gen X. And yes, I'm Gen X. I am the last year of Gen X, and the same as my wife. We're 1984, which is the last year of Gen X, and it's the first year or one of the first years you could say is millennial. So I could count as a millennial. She sees herself more millennial. I see myself more Gen X, but that's also because I was cultured around more Gen X. Gen X has a tendency to have the most reactionary language, but a lot of us have betrayed each other so much. There are more Gen X that are sympathetic to Gen Z, which wasn't always the case. It's just that the millennials thought that they were going to be good people, but millennials are full of transphobic parents, performative leftists of white people who want to cancel people. You'll notice all the white people in the millennial culture wanted to cancel everybody to hide their own whiteness. And they would often do it by accusing everybody of being transphobic. And you'll notice Gen Z has more openly and consciously and self-aware genderqueer people, and they hate the whole cancer culture thing. It's one of the reasons why people constantly had dogpiled on the Falcon General. So anyway, Shavua Tov, if anybody remembers, it means a good week. In the description below, you'll notice that there is a link to the playlist. It was a 5-part collaboration between myself and Jason Andrew. It also has some assistance from Dark Snovia, who's also known as Jordan McCulkin, as well as the Red Pagan, also known as Nicole. And I said that I was killing the narrative. Of course, Mark Foster tried to twist that and say that I was trying to take over Jason, Unruh, and Red Pagan and Nicole, which is not true. It's just I know what we can do about the narration around what went wrong with the MRM network, who we were actually working for, and how we were isolated from Dr. Weisfeld. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not speaking to Dr. Weisfeld anymore, is in order to serve and protect his reputation, I can't be checking in or looking for his approval on that, because there's a lot of optics around this that have been distorted. So I basically made it so clear that here's how we will proceed on protecting our reputation and putting out a final video, the four of us together, about how fully what went wrong with the MRM network, how and why it went wrong, and who is to blame. And now we don't need to criticize Jason Unruh. Jason Unruh has been criticized by Dead Man Animations and everybody else, and even by a lot of us internally. But myself, Dark Snovia, and Red Pagan, I want to give a self-criticism about us. First of all, I'm going to need to do a justice for Red Pagan, because she did stick up for me many times. I think you need to do a live stream over your hiatus video and criticize your hiatus video, because you came back on track. But your hiatus video really put us in boiling water, especially after you protected me and called out a bunch of black people. And that could be perceived as a white move. And as a Jew, I don't need that precarious situation, but you can't undo what you said. So Red Pig and Nicole did me a solid justice, but she should do herself a solid justice by pretty much self-criticizing the stream she did. There's also some favors she could do from people who had been long-standing in the convergence that has collapsed. And we are going to have to come forward and explain how Carr historically fucked over the whole convergence and how that actually happened. And the worst part is that if I participate in this, which I am, I'll be accused of controlling everybody again. It's the unfortunate situation I'm in. And some people are confused. I'm like, well, aren't you going to criticize Dr. Weisfeld? I already did. Go to Stop Genocide Part 2. I finally fulfilled that side of the promise. I criticized him. And yes, I gave goddamn affirmations as well. I'm the one that taught Luke Dublin that he should do that, because yes, criticism is overused. It is weaponized too much. It's one of the few things that Mason Steiner, aka Red Scare TV, got correct, that stop weaponizing criticism, except that he deserves more criticism than those people. So even though he said a correct line, he probably did it to protect himself, because he's a fucking honky. Anyway. Yeah, I went down, and, he got my wife in further debt. My wife was just getting out of the debt, and then he said he'd pay, and then, my wife just said, whatever, I guess I just won't trust you, and then he took that as, oh, I don't have to pay you money. Then he came down to Tempe, a city I'm not in Arizona, expecting me to go meet him so he could pay me money, and my wife has already had to pay money for my son's physical treatments. So it's a very fucked up situation, and one that I now have to explain to people. Also, why my mother-in-law, I hate her guts, and I was trying not to hate her guts, but she is ashamed of how my children are aware of Sikhism, Hinduism, and Sufi Sunni Islam. And that this also helps foster our Jewish nationality as a diaspora nationality and our hatred towards the state of Israel, because of our close connection to how much we pay attention to gurus of the Hindu, tradition, and teachers of the Sikh tradition, and imams, the Sufi Sunni imams, who can tell you a lot about Rumi, by the way. But anyway, yeah, so I'll tell you something here. So remember, monastic includes sexual orientation, religiosity, gender identity, cultural superstition, environmental ecosystems. Secular includes things like entertainment, recreation, trivial landscaping, rehab, fashion, sports. Civil includes mental health, judicial court, fire and safety, transportation, and waste management. Because she's okay, so you have to understand, I am very protective of Roman Catholics, but the part of that protection is I have to be true to my own people, Jewish people, and I therefore reserve the right to not only criticize Roman Catholics, but put up Jewish voices who even hate Catholics, such as Dr. Weisfeld, the chairman. I'm not the chairman, I'm the cleric, okay? And I'm an interfaith cleric, but I'm also, in political terms, known as the cleric of public relations. And part of that is I have to shut up Western Christianity. So I'll defend the Roman Catholic Church, which is the original Western Christians, because they're the first. Even though they're the first Western Christians, they're the only ones that are likely to be fully de-Westernized. They'd have to stop being the Roman Catholic Church and go with the Gregorian Revolution, though, and become the Gregorian Catholic Church, that is, and not be ashamed of Latin Mass, but at the same time, give up power to the Muslims, the Jews, and the Eastern and the Christians of the Orient. They kind of should, and that would help them. And because they have a bigger problem, that's the Protestants and the Mormons, who are responsible, by the way, for Zionism, which is a proxy reinvention of the Crusades movements. It has a lot to do with whiteness and Westernization of the whole planet. Okay, so my son wanted to be on hormone blockers, but they won't let us do anything until the kid's 18. Even though I think at the age of 16, if the parents are all hip about it, they should actually be able to vouch to the doctors. The problem is this is also why I'm still going to do my thing. I'm going to write my thing, Mr. President, hands off our genderqueer children, and I'm going to be reading that out soon once I've written it. And I do hope I can get as much support about that as I can, because that could get me in legal trouble with the law. And eventually people are going to figure out who I am and who my son is. In fact, there's this thing I did with Dr. Weisfeld a couple months ago where I was on there and I accidentally said my son's actual name. And some people know my name. It's just I don't want people to figure out everything too quickly. For instance, my son's previous high school was across the street from where the massacre was, by the way, of May 27, 2019. And many people in that school, you should know, were genderqueer, and many of them had parents that were police officers. So, like the commune of anarchy, even without the Arizona Rebellion, the soil that creates it is always around. A lot of it comes from kids that hate their parents, genderqueer kids who hate their police officer parents, and many of their police officer parents happen to be in the Kohanist organization known as the Jewish Defense League. That's a fucked up fascist Zionist organization, by the way. And many others are also in the National Socialist movement, which is a neo-Nazi formation also. And yes, these people are in the cops, and they're big clients of a trafficking network called Midnight Productions. And it's like this very taboo thing I should never have had to talk about, but Dr. Weisfeld coerced me into speaking of it. Now there's no going back. And that's why AB has to give me a free hand to do whatever I want. But to do that, I had to disassociate with him. While I have to also not be an emotional person, because the truth is, I love Dr. Weisfeld, but he does not understand that he can't speak to me anymore. He's got to talk to all the other contacts he has. He has contacts with Jason Unruh. He has contacts with Red Pagan Network, and he's accepted in Red Pagan Network, and he's also connected to Dark Snowy, and they should all start speaking him more than me. I never use my real. No, nor should you. But eventually, I'm going to finish these documentaries with Comrade number 3, these 8 documentaries, and then I'm retiring from politics. The Bund will survive without me, especially because anarcho-Bundism is going to be the most popular stream of Bundism soon. That's my son's type of Bundism. He's an anarcho-Bundist, but he kind of, because we couldn't get hormone blockers for him on time, he's going to want the testosterone, I suppose. Also, he's into a lot of queer masculinism, which I support that. I support queer masculinism. My son is also, like me, more of a truth seeker than a free thinker, and that's one of the differences between me and Dr. Weisfeld that I get upset with Dr. Weisfeld on, is he is a free thinker. I'm not a free thinker. I oppose free thinking. I am a truth seeker. And I'm a non-feminist, and I'm critical of the origins of feminism being a white thing. But there are some versions of feminism that are pretty cool. And that's why I say I'm not going to be anti-feminist, because it's not a monolith. I'd love to talk to Phoenix Rising, whoever she is, they. That is somebody I'd like to speak to. That would be great. So some feminists I'm interested in, but they don't even seem to know or remember me or anything. Absolutely. See, and that's what people don't know. This is a consciousness happening. We should say that. Blackness, yes. Jewishness, yes. Queerness, yes. Well, let's fucking say it. And fuck Whitey. Revolution against the white man. Logan Manson Games, you should join me on this. You can understand this. Fuck with white people. The white man is gay. Just make the slogan. The white man is gay. Even if he's straight, he's gay. Because gay is the new Smurf. You can't say Smurf anymore because it's now a racist term. But Smurf, if you watch the Smurfs, used to be an alternative word for all kinds of things. So now gay could mean something chic or cool, but it could also mean lame. That's a fusion of, by the way, Gen X angst and Gen Z angst. But What I like about Gen Z and Gen A is they're actually more likely to do something. Gen X, we could have done something, but we all sold out too quickly, and millennials were always fake. There's one good thing that came out of millennial culture. They protected the integrity of Star Wars prequel lore, whereas Gen X was terrible and the most reactionary about that. Gen X is at fault for the fucked up sequel trilogy. Dark Snovia should join me in that. You want to rip apart something about Gen X, Jordan? That's what you really need to rip apart about my generation. The original trilogy, fucking sectarian people come from my generation. Gen X, fuck that shit. What I love about my son is not a square. My son understands a lot about magic, understands a lot about science, understands a lot about art, the arts. The white man is gay. Fuck yes. Absolutely. And you know what the white man's doing? He's doing this. He's basically going up to the black guy and say, "Take in my colony, boy." That's what he does. That's the white man's culture. He goes right up to the white man, to the black man, tells him, "Get on your knees and accept my colony." You know what he's saying? It's fucked up. It's gay. Yeah. And not in a good way. See, real straight people, you know what we say? Everybody's a bit gay. It's just how gay are you? And if you can't say that, if you're too homophobic to say that, you might actually be gay. Remember, Genderqueer Nation has spoken. The white man is gay. Fuck yes! I know. And the best line ever, my favorite Star Wars movie of all time is Star Wars Attack of the Clones. That is the best Star Wars movie of all time. My favorite line of all time is, "You're asking me to be rational. That is something that I know that I cannot do." Anyway, if you go in the link in the description, it will take you to the 5-parter Stop Genocide. I don't know if I agree with everything Steve Struggle and Dr. Weisfeld say in part 5, but you'll notice me and Jason, we didn't say anything in part 5. We said little tiny bits, and that was it. Jason said the most of what he wanted to say in part 1, if you pay attention. He kind of just lets me go off the rings. I was trying to get him to say more, but Jason said what he really wanted to say in part 1, and a bit in part 4. I spoke a lot more than I meant to in part 4, and in part 5, we just let Dr. Weisfeld and Steve Struggle basically own the show, but also I suggested, hey, they're the latest thing I've reposted on my channel, Electronic Fanta. Can we just put that in there? He said, absolutely, because it really should shake you to the core. And if it doesn't, you're my enemy. And that's why when you watch the 5th one, when you see the Electronic Intifada, when you see that Palestinians speak, listen to what that Palestinian says. Anyway. I'm going to go soon. I know that, usually these things are a bit longer, but just read the description in there. Shavua Tov. Long live the Jewish diaspora. We are the Jewish nation is an intellectual nation with intellectual pursuits. While we do have a heteronormal side, we also have a very queer side. And it's true because, yeah. Long live the Jewish communist conspiracy. See, what I think we can do to destroy the white man is just make their worst nightmare happen. Let's just get some Jews and communists together so that we can come up with a plan to undermine Western culture forever. Yes, who will join me on this? Somebody should say before I go, give me a satisfaction that, yes, I will join you in the Jewish communist conspiracy. Yeah, well, number 3 is a bit, the Revenge of the Sith is meant to be the traumatizing one out of the videos. But anyway, yeah. Who will join me on that? Who will join me on the Jewish communist conspiracy? Just if anybody. Good. Join me in the Jewish communist conspiracy. Anyway, I guess nobody as it is with anybody. But if anybody, one more chance for people to join me. Say that if I can get one person. I mean, Logan Manson Games is the only one here, so I don't think I expect that. But anyway, yeah, I should go. Long live the Jewish communist conspiracy. Whitey's nightmare should come true.